This report, first published in spring 2015, details the key findings from the EEF research into making best use of teaching assistants. The report has 7 key recommendations. They provide a framework by which schools can transform the way TAs are deployed and supported to help them thrive in their role and improve outcomes for pupils. I'm here at the Institute of Education to meet Rob Webster, one of the report's authors, to find out more about the key findings. Rob is a leading researcher in the field of teaching assistants and works for UCL Institute of Education, where he heads up the Maximising the Impact of Teaching Assistants project. What research findings are all these recommendations based on?
The recommendations around those structured interventions are largely from programmes that have been tested and evaluated when they've been delivered by TAs. In terms of the recommendation around using TAs in everyday classroom settings, it comes largely from the deployment and impact of support staff project, which was a huge research project we did here at the IOE, and it was the first attempt to get a handle on the impact of the amount of support children receive from TAs and how that affects their learning outcomes, their progress over the course of a school year. And from that we learnt a lot about how schools were at the time deploying and training and getting TAs ready for their roles, and how TAs are having interactions with children as well. And off the basis of this large-scale research, we were able to set out some thoughts about how schools might be able to use TAs better, and that's essentially what we've carried forward into the EEF report.
One of the other authors of the report is Dr. Jonathan Sharples. He is a senior researcher at the Education Endowment Foundation, and his primary focus is analysing and assessing what works in the classroom and the impact on student attainment. So Jonathan, why is this research valid?
I think traditionally a lot of education research has been done on relatively small scale settings, typically with researchers working with small groups. Here what we've done really for the first time is at large scale, in the complex, messy world of schools, tested the impact of doing interventions that are led by TAs compared to business as usual. And we do that using a methodology called randomised controlled trials, where we'll take typically, say, 50 schools and randomly allocate them either to receive the intervention or continuing doing what they were doing before, so it gets called business as usual, and we look for the difference in impact between those two contexts. Typically, most randomised trials will show very small effects or no effects, so it's really unusual actually to see this kind of consistent set of positive findings emerging around TA deployment. So you've got a difference between the typical situation where we are now and I think the potential for doing something different, and I think it's that difference between the kind of current context and the potential of where we can go that I think sets out quite a clear mandate, if you like, to do something different here. We say in the report that I don't think there's a sign that the status quo really is an option really on TA deployment. You know, we've got nearly 400,000 teaching assistants in the system, and there's such a good opportunity to think about deploying and training them using differently.
In the following units, we'll look at the recommendations in detail, examining what they mean in practice and how you can start using them to make changes in your school. For now, let me leave you with a question. What role does research already play in your school's decision-making?